Hello, good afternoon. The Health Secretary has accused Nigel Farage of being a con artist and the snake oil salesman of British politics as he made his speech to the Labour Party conference in the last hour. Wes Streeting also laid out plans for the future of the NHS and fair pay for care workers. He becomes the latest government figure to criticise the Reform leader over the last few days, warning of what he called poisonous post-truth politics.
Farage wants to replace the NHS with an insurance system. His vision for healthcare is a system that checks your pockets before your pulse and asks for your credit card before your care. Well, it might be all right for Mr. Moneybags. We know he can afford it. But what about those who can't? We should know by now that man is a con artist, posing as the voice of the people whilst working for the interests of the powerful. We must win another fight too, one against the poison of post-truth politics. At Reform's conference, a discredited doctor claimed that the COVID vaccine gave our royal family cancer. And this man wasn't just some fringe figure, he's Reform's health advisor. Now, these anti-vax lies have consequences. They've led to the return of diseases we thought we'd defeated. Measles, whooping cough, children dying from preventable illness in this, the 21st century. When Farage was asked whether he'd side with medical scientists, he said, "I wouldn't side with anybody." Anti-science, anti-reason, anti-health. Nigel Farage is a snake oil salesman of British politics, and it's time to stop buying what he's selling.
Well, our political correspondent Tamara Cohen is in Liverpool for us, and Tamara, perhaps not to be too surprised that the Health Secretary gave a very impassioned defence of the NHS.
No, and he started off by criticising reform, which has been one of the big themes of this conference, of course. Labour go into it behind reform in the polls. We've had poll after poll showing that Nigel Farage could walk into Downing Street after the next general election. Now, if that sounds very far away, Labour are also very worried about the Welsh and Scottish elections, which are in just 8 months' time and potentially being wiped out by reform at those. So you can see why every cabinet minister is joining in the chorus, and Wes Streeting doing it in his own way. The activists really enjoyed. There were multiple standing ovations in that speech, calling Nigel Farage a snake oil salesman and saying that the way Labour rebuilds trust is to improve the NHS. And he set out his plans for that, which is basically for an NHS online service starting in 2 years' time, where if you need to see a specialist consultant, it won't necessarily be in person, it will be online, and that will enable you to see a consultant anywhere in the country. And they say that will generate 8.5 million more appointments and mean that people aren't waiting months and months to be seen. And he says the NHS has to move with the times. I think the Health Secretary is aware it won't go down well with everyone. Some people will be worried they won't be able to see someone in person. There will be concerns in the NHS about it. But he said to them that the NHS must not become a museum. It needs to move on, and this is the way it must adapt for the 21st century. He also ranged into other issues in that speech, and it was interesting that as well as praising some of the big unions who have campaigned for fair pay for care workers, something that he announced in his speech, he also had some words for the former Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, who is not at this conference in Liverpool, having resigned from the Cabinet for not paying enough tax on her home. This is what Wes Streeting said about her to the conference.
And there's someone else who's made a real difference too, who understands the struggle care workers face because she was one. She brought that experience to the cabinet table as the care worker who became our country's Deputy Prime Minister. Angela Rayner, this achievement is yours. Thank you. And we want her back as well.
interesting. Why raise her in this speech? Well, she's a popular figure with the Labour grassroots, but he's very clear that they want her back despite the circumstances of her resignation. Wes Streeting, one of the party's best communicators, got a very good reception in the hall there, and that NHS announcement is going to form a big part of the Prime Minister's speech, which we're going to get underway in the next hour or so. He's going to talk about adapting the NHS for the 21st century, but he's also going to announce, I imagine, other things, because the theme of this conference is if they are going to tackle the challenge of reform, it is partly about values, with the Prime Minister calling some of their policies outrightly racist, but also about delivery, about not announcing policies which are going to take years and years to come to fruition, but things people will be able to notice in their day-to-day lives in the next couple of years. And that is something that the Health Secretary is very keen to do, and something I think the Prime Minister is going to focus on too. But when we hear about, ending the 8 a.m. scramble for appointments, how many times have we heard that in the past? A lot. They are really going to have to show, I think, that these ideas can be put into practice quickly, but you can feel their urgency to do so. And they know that those elections in Scotland and Wales are coming down the track pretty quickly.